Hey there viewers, my name is Torinski and welcome back to another DCSS Sunday. Today we're going to be jumping right back into our attempts to make it through to the end with the Draconian here. Last week, it unfortunately didn't go too well for us. Our first run ended in its infancy pretty much, and then the second one looked quite promising, but unfortunately right at the end of the night, I threw it all away. But it just means we can hop in from the start here. Hopefully, just one last time, but you never know what the dungeon has in store for us. So, we'll jump back in with the Draconian. I was debating over the week here if I wanted to switch things up, not go the Conjurer route this time around, but I think just for the sake of the lineage here, for Draco the First and Draco the Second, I'm going to give it one more shot at the start of the stream today, and if it does, heaven forbid, happen to end, hopefully it's relatively early, and we'll hop in. Maybe my eye is kind of on the Fire Elementalist, just because it's been a little bit since I played with them, and I remember really enjoying the Foxfire spell. I mean, as long as you're not in a tiny corridor, of course, but that might be on the agenda, but I'm not gonna settle on that, because we're going to do our very best to make sure that Draco the Third, the last of his name, maybe, we'll see how it goes, is going to head into the dungeon today, with a uniform to match that of their direct predecessor, Draco the Second. But going through the usual routines here, make sure that we set everything up, set skills to manual, not accidentally start throwing stuff around or anything like that. Uncheck stealth and focus conjurations. I do know that there is a decent selection of players, or a number of players, that do enjoy training stealth on any casters that don't have a negative aptitude in that regard, because it is really nice for just splitting your fights up and making sure that you're generally just going to be drawing one enemy, and if you draw others, maybe they'll stay in that like slightly wandering phase with the question mark on their sprite. But for the most part, I enjoy just maniacally laughing my way through the dungeon as a blaster caster, so I think I'll stick to what I know for now. I also, last time around, didn't really take advantage, actually in none of the runs that I've done so far in this series, I haven't really taken advantage of the fact that in this version of Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup, we're able to quiver our magical spells in that cast slot, which is definitely interesting. It does mean that I should get around to binding throw a macro at some point here, because now with that as an option as well, it does kind of make our life a bit easier. But for the time being, maybe I'll stick with what I know, and once we get a couple spells under our belt, we'll maybe try and focus a little more on that today and take advantage of some of the new systems that were in this version of the game. But until then, we will continue onwards and upwards here. You did notice me. Hello, Slug. Let's just bring this buddy back. I'm going to make sure they don't lose sight of me, but wait around this corner, and... I mean, does the dart slug melee me? It bites for 3 damage. Cool. So I do want to be next to it as we launch the magic darts. Wait, did he launch a dart at me? Dang it, I was hoping that they'd try and bite me for that 3 damage, but it's a 2d4, so that was one of the worst hits, like a second worst hit we could take here, so please don't end it early. I have so much hope in store for young Draco here. Unfortunately, the second monster we found in the dungeon will not be our demise today. Instead, we'll keep it going. As we just say that, we do run into a different monster that may be the end of our run. Depending on how these magic darts go, the first one missed, or hit, but just dealt no damage, I guess, because they were sleeping, so I think it's guaranteed to hit. But second one was a miscast. Okay, unfortunately we do just kill them in one, so that's a little bit better than I was expecting, honestly. And it does give us a short sword here that we know is not cursed and can immediately wield just in case we find ourselves in a nasty situation without any magic points to spare. Okay, 2 of you buddies should be okay. Level up is definitely nice. The smart thing to do here, and perfectly safe play thing maybe to do here, would probably be to run away. This hobgoblin doesn't actually know where we are at the moment. Could try and rest up and heal some magic, but I think I'm just gonna go for it. I was going to say right as I miscast Magic Dart again, what is your 3% failure? That's 2 in relatively short succession there. Breaking all kinds of records, Draco. Not in the good way, unfortunately. But we can just pillar dance a bit, run away. Oh, we are traveling into the unknown. That's a bad move on my part. Oh gosh, none of these are hitting. Or they hit and deal no damage, one or the other. I'm gonna risk stepping out into the unknown here. Perfect. Wait until they're just close enough to loop-de-loop our way around that pillar there, and we'll back up. Oh gosh. Why is there another one? Where did you come from? I was going to say that we were going to wait until we had a bit more mana to cast a few spells this way, but I guess we're just gonna go for it. And we finally get the good hit, but we'll immediately turn around and deliver the same fate to the other, and this time with a little less trouble than we did in the first few encounters of the run thus far. So we can start exploring a bit more here. Hopefully that's the worst of our luck. Looks like it so far. A few pretty solid kills, getting those hits that we need so dearly. And perfect. Just continue our merry journey here. So funny, so far we seem to either deal no damage to these monsters or we're smashing them for max damage and getting one-hit kills. No mid-rolls, or medium rolls, I guess, since that means something totally different nowadays, especially on YouTube. But I don't know, I can definitely relate to this character in that way, because generally when I play D&D, or most role-in games in general, I guess, I do find myself rolling to the extremes like that. Okie dokie. First dungeon, not too bad, definitely a few close encounters. Definitely ones that maybe shouldn't have been very close encounters based on what we were fighting, but we survived them and that's all that really matters at the end of the day here. We'll head on down to D2, oh gosh. Fortunately, nobody woke up here or else we would have died. We still almost died because they all got a turn as we walked up, but fortunately, because they were all asleep, they were left behind, not brought up with us, because if even one of those adjacent gnolls had woken up on our descent there, I think them following us up would have been a death. But fortunately, that was not our fate today, and now we do know that there is a gnoll pack, and now it will be wandering about a little bit here. We take a quick peek. We have some distance between us and them. That ant is probably awake now as well, unfortunately. Oh me oh my. So let's start exploring this way. And the goal here, actually, even before that, but the goal here is going to be to gain a little bit of experience and hopefully be able to face those buddies when we do come in contact with them. But we are level 2, and so let's check out Searing Ray here and learn that right away. So we have another spell at our disposal. One thing that I'd kind of forgotten about, oops, let's not get into melee range as we chat here, but one thing that I had forgotten about with Searing Ray combinations in DCSS is that because you are spending a few turns just focusing on the cast, those actually count as you doing nothing. So for items like the acrobat necklaces and whatnot, that actually allows you to proc those effects, and you can get pretty ridiculous amounts of evasion while you stand there and just channel your death ray at any enemies as they approach. So if possible, that's going to be something I'm going to look out for today. Try to put into practice here. Some unfortunate miscasts still happening with our magic darts here. Pretty rough. This fight I think I will take at this stage in the game. Now that we're level 3, I think we can take either Hobgoblin with no weapon or one with just a club. Should be okay for us here. Perfect. Just in time to demonstrate exactly what we were talking about. Thank you, Hobgoblin buddy. Or Goblin, I guess. I never really know off the cusp which is which. I need to study my goblins a little bit better. But we'll keep on moving here. Ooh, we did not start our run with pickups. I don't believe we've missed anything of too much import, fortunately. But we'll quickly go through. Maybe we won't worry about stones this time around. They are the only throwing thing that we have available at the moment here. So maybe we'll pop those on. And as my memory slowly is coming back to me here, and I'm realizing what other things that I'm forgetting, we should also do a quick character dump and pop over this way. Copy this big ol' number, and we shall quickly insert this in just in case anybody wishes to play along at home here. Make sure all of that is in frame. Perfect. And there we go. So added the seed just in case, yeah, either someone wants to try the exact same run, or maybe, just maybe, we'll get ridiculously lucky this time around, and it'll be a fun seed to just fool around on in the future. But this is the kind of encounter we want, just one of the gnolls seeing us here. I'll even stick to magic darts until they're a bit closer, and then we'll switch over to Searing Ray. Weird that you named him the third one. He's clearly the first Draconian we've played. Oh, of course. Yeah, we've never even lost a run of Dungeon Crawl before, but we do these things sometimes just for fun. You know how it is. Okay, we did not have enough magic to keep our Ray, and the other gnolls are on us. So the easy answer here is just going to be to pop upstairs. That did look like the same gnoll pack that we encountered just earlier. Same weapons at least. We've taken care of the halberd buddy, which is pretty good. But maybe that will be our next way down. Could try the unknown stairs. It's fairly likely to be at least relatively safe, but I am confident that those are the same gnolls. Otherwise, we're just too unfortunate in our luck today and deserve to lose immediately. That Quokka popping out isn't exactly what we wanted, but I was willing to wait out a few more turns of Searing Ray, and fortunately it paid off, taking out our ant buddy immediately. We should be able to take a Quokka, no problem at this stage. But I'm worried anytime we're even a little bit poisoned this early on, never know when all of a sudden a few hits will really take a downward spiral. There we go, the ant taken care of that we saw at the bottom of the stairway. No clue where those gnolls will end up now that we've seen them traverse most of the level already at this stage. Hopefully not too close to us at the worst possible moment. But even if they do, Searing Ray does seem to be picking up the pace now and allowing us to have a bit more confidence in these early encounters. And just in time, the adder shows up to remind me of my place in this world. But in all seriousness, the Ray should do the trick, and it indeed did before I even had time to hypothesize about its effectiveness. And unfortunately, in -2 dagger, in that enchanted dagger there, I got pretty excited seeing that. Thought we might get an early weapon here, but that's fine. We won't be too greedy. Well, of course, just hold on until we find the usual artifact trident, whenever the game decides to hand us that. So anytime would be great, of course. Earlier the better. But we'll be happy regardless here. And as I joke about it, I do kind of hope a little bit that we can maybe mix it up a little. I do love tridents, don't get me wrong, there's so many advantages to the reach alone. But I was just earlier this run hypothesizing about doing some acrobat shenanigans with our Searing Ray here. And if we did so, it would be another pretty fun run to work out a long blade build of some kind. Much like we did for the Che follower, if you are able to build up to a pretty ridiculous amount of evasion, those long blades get really fun, especially kind of in the mid game when you're facing a lot of enemies that will miss you relatively often and you'll get those riposte strikes in. But we will go wherever the game takes us, of course. It's not looking like an altar on D2, but of course there's still a little bit of the level to go here. Are we putting points into weapons or going pure spells? At the start of the run here, I'm definitely going pure spells. Probably at least until, oops, wrong M there. I guess it's all kind of relevant to the conversation. But I do really like getting IMB up, so that will probably be our focus in the early game here. Just get that shove-off maneuver, and then maybe this run we can start thinking about hybridizing a little bit more. I definitely get pretty, railroaded is the word that's coming to mind, but tunnel visioned on the focuses that I'm trying to explore or have fun with, for sure. For example, maybe upon finding one of those many amazing tridents, a total switch to a melee run could have, or probably would have even, ended up in a victory for us. But there's something to be said, about theme and standing our ground and making ourselves the greatest blaster caster this dungeon has ever seen. So we'll see where the whims take us today. These jackal buddies are one of my favorite targets for the Searing Ray because you just get to take out entire packs in one fell swoop here. Ooh, and our first orc. Maybe alone? Not quite alone, but not a priest. That does seem like... I guess, no, wizards can only haste themselves, so that orc must have drank a potion. The orc did drink a haste potion. Lovely. I mean, I would have liked to pick that up myself, of course, but at least we made it through in one piece. Oh, and there's the orc priest that we were just talking about, of course. Showing up in the nick of time here. Ooh, kind of risked it with the Searing Ray, using up the last of our mana in the final few sprays there, but all's well that ends well. And we've taken out the first of our scary early dungeon threats. I guess we haven't run into any uniques left, but there's always the rest of D3 for such nonsense. We shall just continue our way. We're getting to a decent number of consumables here, so I should think at the very least about starting to identify some of our scrolls and our potions, especially if that 5 stack of scrolls are identified scrolls. That gives us a nice little bit of leverage into the early game here. But finding a Gozag altar right off the cusp here is real tricky for me. Do I just go with whatever I want? Because Gozag is one of my favorite gods and probably one of the ones that is most likely to pilot us into success. But it is fun to explore, to experiment. We'll pick up these pieces. Oops. I was about to say that I think the initial tribute that you have to pay for joining Gozag is determined by gold you've seen. I could be wrong. I have no idea where I'm drawing that from. It's definitely not something I know for a fact is on a wiki or something like that. But, so, could go with Gozag. Are we Ferengi? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Safid. I'm sorry if I'm just missing something or an obvious joke. Definitely has been known to happen from time to time here. But, oh me oh my, it's so tempting. We'll maybe explore the rest of D3. It won't make a huge difference at the end of the day here. Especially since with Gozag, we're not worried about missing out on early piety. The only disadvantage we put ourselves at by not worshipping them right away is the fact that we'll pay a little bit more in that tithe when we do convert, if we do, I guess I should say. Which is not a huge deal, especially as long as we can find a decent amount of money right off the bat here. And we don't really need those god abilities right away, they're just for when things start to get a little bit tricky. Gozag is definitely the Ferengi god, just about that money. Oh, okay. Still not sure about the reference, maybe something I'll brush myself up on, but definitely picking up what you're putting down now, because greed is good, and I definitely love Gozag for that. I don't know how much I identify with it in my own life. I like to think not that much, but to a certain point, unfortunately, I do need some amount of money just to make it by in this cruel dark world we live in. But okay, we have Che and we have Gozag as our first two buddies. I do love Che so much, but I think that it slows me down to a glacial pace, especially fitting for such a chill, relaxed god of slowness. And so maybe we'll stick to something a little bit different on Draco the Third here today, and if I'm being honest, I wouldn't mind getting the momentum back into our life here, maybe getting a victory on this run. So I think we will go with my main man, Gozag here. It's going to be embarrassing if I lose, even though I'm taking all of the advantages that I wish here. But Gozag is just too solid. It's such a cheap fee right off the bat here, and we are pretty close, all things considered, to getting the 400 gold needed for a first potion petition here. The money starts off pretty slow in the early game here, but it definitely starts to ramp up as we make our way along, and we have a time door on D4 here. I probably should have done some of that identifying I was speaking so fondly about before we made our way down the stairs. It's not too many turns to waste, I guess, so let's do so anyway, shall we? Starting with the stack of 5 scrolls here. We'll read those buddies and see that they are in fact identified, much like we would expect. And, I do want to start identifying potions right away, because it is nice to get some of those early panic buns, but with Gozag, if we can just get that initial investment of gold under our belt, then Potion Petition does kind of make up for a lot of shortcomings in that regard. I guess maybe that alone is why I'm so attracted to Gozag in general, is because I'm so willy-nilly with how I quaff potions to get out of any sort of bad situation that I've put myself in for various different stupid reasons. And so it gives me just another crutch made out of the exact same material of what I so love to do myself. But okay, here we go. Another orc pack, this time with a wizard who is trying to confuse me there. Unfortunately, we hit that 51% chance to resist, otherwise that could have gone a little bit uglier. I maybe shouldn't have auto-explored now that I think about it, because we are trying to find that gate if we're able to. But one quick check, -3 dagger. Brilliant. But a mace of venom is a bit scarier if that buddy gets to us. So I'm gonna drag these friends out. If we make them go through the door, then it does put them into the single file line here. So we can then definitely try to sear and ray as many of them as we can. Maybe we'll stick to this time being. There's a searing ray. If I just continue to last, will it go to you? It does still. Okay, good thing. And make sure we keep auto-targeting the right orcs here, especially for that, again, Mace of Venom. And that's tempting to put on right away here. It has a pretty, or relatively short, standard delay here. That versus a glowing falchion that we have no idea what it is. Could be horrible, could be great. You know what? I'm feeling lucky today. Let's try it out, and we get a +2 Vorpal falchion. Okay. So we're looking at a slightly better 2-hit, going up to 4, and a slightly better damage than the mace. Vorpal hits through any kind of resistances. Maybe we'll stick to the falchion for now here, because this is a long blade, so it does fulfill the criteria of that self-fulfilling prophecy that we're aiming at today. I'm of course just trying some wish fulfillment here, that if I believe hard enough that it is a self-fulfilling prophecy, it will be. But these adders are a bit of a pain in the butt. I don't think we're in danger of this grate closing right away, so we're going to explore around just for this very type of encounter, make sure we aren't going to be running into anything else nasty while we deal with the inhabitants of this entrance, because it looks to me like we want to open up here, and it actually kind of worked out for us going around. The faster adders made their way that way, and the cockroaches blocked the way here, which I love to see, because our goal here is to run back to the hallway, make it all the way here, and then just melt them all, hopefully. It's looking pretty solid. One more array, and there we go. Not too shabby. Run up to here. Unfortunately, no potion potentiality going into the sewer here, but I think we'll be okay with just what we have in store for ourselves. Take the couple steps down to make sure we're on the portal, just in case we have to make a hasty exit, but that's looking all good so far. Not too bad. We'll see, of course, what else we run into in this sewer here. I prefer to keep to the hallways as much as we can, so I'd like it if we could engage upon most of the enemies right here, and it does seem like they're being drawn out. Ooh, there's the big boss. Hey, Brain, how's it going? Hope you're having a great day here so far. Start of our run is definitely going all right. We're on pace in the usual way here to do just fine. Of course, we'll see how it all turns out. Be nice to get a little initial investment of treasure out of this vault here. Maybe. Okay, just potions it's looking like. Unfortunately, not the gold that we may so desire right now. I found out how broken Absolute Zero is for myself today from Brain. Yes, I'm very jealous because I've yet to truly witness it firsthand here, and I've heard so much of its power. But did you just take it on a quick stroll, or did you go the full deal, the full 15? Because I do hear that it trivializes certain Pan Lords and Hell Lords that are normally long drawn out duels to the death. But, oh wait, we should go for the flight here. I'm pretty sure there's treasure here. I'm hoping I'm not wrong and wasting a potion, but okay, I'm wrong. I'm missing a potion, but it's always worth a check. I feel like they're always hiding secret caves under waterfalls, and they're always at the head of the river like that. It's just a known fact of all video games. You gotta check it out each and every time. I like 7, 8 runes, but Dissipator and Dissipator? I guess it's Dissipator probably, right? Never said that one out loud. And Asmodeus were one-shot by it? Yeah, just absolutely ridiculous. So maybe we'll get the shot. Unfortunately, this time around we're not going with our pal Sif Muna, which through divine exegesis and a lot of spellbook donations, we were on track to getting absolute 0 last time around before our unfortunate demise. But we may still run into it, and if we happen to find ourselves evolving as a white drake once again here, maybe we'll see it here as well. You'll fly on your own soon anyway, that is true. And yo, Polybridge Music Guy again, how's your evening been? Hey Psycho, how's it going? Going pretty well. I was a little bit late for the stream because I was having a nice time outside watering a little flower garden my partner and I put up. Just making sure those buddies had enough to drink here, and it's an absolutely beautiful day out this way, so definitely enjoying that. How's your evening going, I guess? Everyone in chat, how's everyone's evening going? Hope it's well. And I'm very happy, more than happy to be identified as the Polybridge Music Guy, because I do love me this soundtrack. I have been thinking about mixing it up a little bit. I think my DCSS soundtrack will always include the Polybridge music, but I do want to potentially showcase and embrace some of my other favorite, mostly video game soundtracks, because they're almost all under, is it common copyright? I looked this up a while back and I'm forgetting what it is now, but basically free usage in my videos here, which is very appreciative on my end. Definitely makes things a little bit more straightforward. But I guess to name drop there, specifically I've been eyeing the Bastion soundtrack, and by extension I started listening to some of the other Supergiant Games soundtracks, because I didn't play nearly enough of Transistor, but I was jamming out to a lot of the songs on that soundtrack as well. I think they know what they're doing in that developer. They have their music set up for them there. But Psycho says great for their day as well. Good to hear. Happy to hear that for sure. But okay, turns out we are going purple today, which is a nice, brilliant shade of scales here, don't get me wrong, so I'm happy to see that. It means that we will learn spellcasting quicker. I'm just looking at the chat log here, we can even bring it up. But we learn spellcasting quicker. Our spellcasting also increased due to that, I think, on our level up. But we learn hexes much quicker, which is interesting. Not a huge fan of the hex school in general, by which I more so mean that I don't have much experience rather than have any negative feelings towards it. But I'm happy to potentially embrace that. It might even mean that this time around we'll figure out exactly what prismatic... Wait, no, that's not right. It's something prism. Fulminant prism? Fulminant prism is all about. Because it's supposed to be incredible. I don't love the noise it makes, but it does involve hexes. That'll make it a bit easier. And we also learn evocations quicker. With that, I am a big fan of, because usually as a spellcaster, I'm not taking advantage of my evocations very much, but because we're with Gozag, there's no invocations to worry about, so that sounds pretty sweet. And the fact that we can breathe bolts of dispelling energy is absolutely incredible, I think, against certain monsters. I'm not gonna take too many stabs off the cusp here. Or I can't think of too many, I should say, to be more bluntly honest about it. Can't think of too many good examples right off the bat here, but I'm sure there's some spellcasters that we wouldn't mind dispelling, especially things that cause themselves to go invisible, aren't innately invisible, I guess. We should be able to just breathe on them a little bit, and they'll pop out. I believe that's how that works. I don't have too much experience being the one that dispels myself. It's usually finding a Quicksilver Dragon and you're in like necromutation mode and worried out your butt about what's going to happen if that gets cancelled. But we'll do our best to roll with it as we go here and figure it out on the fly. We'll use a couple more identify potions, getting the curing potions identified, which is pretty nice. Have our anti-poison online now. And we'll keep going here. Maybe something like Death Knight ability to reflect damage. Yes, that is actually a pretty solid example, and even, I guess, anyone that's hasted, right? You can just dispel haste off people. That's awesome. Definitely no complaints from me. I feel like I almost never get purple Draconian, so I'm not familiar with just how powerful the potential may be here. Or Berserk, right? I think so, Brain. That would make sense to me. I know it's tough with Berserk because Berserk is so iconic of the anti-magic of Trog, so it almost feels like it has to be able to resist that, or if you're too enraged, like, what's gonna slow you down? Nothing except hubris, right? But okay, Sigmund here. And Safid also mentions that hexes have confuse and invis, which can't be bad. That's definitely true. Invisible, especially now that invocable or evocable invisible items have that max HP drain, it might be nice to just have the spell ourselves under the belt here, especially if we do go with Fulminant Prism route anyway. But Sigmund here may be our first real challenge. It's not D2, and I'm definitely feeling a little alright at this point. Maybe I should check some max damages, but yeah, it's usually the D2 Sigmund that's the absolute nightmare murder lord. Fortunately, at this stage in the game, it's not too bad, especially I'm kind of hoping that he turns invisible here, because I would like to experiment. Okay, so I'm gonna breathe my Dispelling Energy. He's still there, right? I believe that the shadow being here does mean we sense the disturbance. He used his turn to go invisible, but let's check it out. Looks like we missed, so let's take some steps back, because I'd still love to do this if we can. I guess he has a reaching weapon, so we can actually even just wait on the steps. And as long as we're keeping an eye on our health... Ooh, he does have a poisonous scythe, I didn't notice that. But we can always retreat upstairs if need be, and he won't follow us with that reach weapon. And we have a second chance here. I'd like to hit, and it does hit him and unravels invisibilities, which is absolutely lovely. So, can definitely hope for more of that in the future. We're getting a little bit closer to lethal amounts of poison here, but the next Searing Ray has got to do it. Perfect. And risky plays like that is why I find myself a potion away from death over and over again throughout a run, but hey, it's early on here. We're a purple Draconian. We got nothing to worry about. And if scythes weren't so crappy of a starting weapon, that base attack delay of 2, eesh, and a -4 base accuracy, but otherwise that'd be kind of tempting. Hey there, Failfink, how's it going? Hope you're having a good day here. Welcome to the run. We're exploring the realms of the purple Draconian today, a color that I've never really gone to take advantage of. Oh my gosh, both brothers were here. Oh no. I mean, okay, I guess he's a jealous sibling. They don't seem to get along very well, so maybe he wouldn't be that unhappy, or at least not outrightly angry that I've murdered his brother in cold blood, but... well, hopefully they take after one another in that way, and we'll start our encounter here. Searing Ray not doing quite as much melting here as we saw in our previous encounters. Ooh, might actually be a little bit scarier. But kind of dreading going to work in the morning and melting in the heat. Oof, yeah, you can definitely imagine that. Are you working outside, or do you just have a hot office or space, I guess, wherever you happen to work? Either way, it's definitely unfortunate. I can definitely feel you out there. Fortunately, on my end of things today, my partner is not around, so it's one of the rare days that I have my office door completely open, which means even though it's kind of hot out here, I'm not melting for once, and hopefully won't start sweating mid-run, but tomorrow's gonna be rough. Yeah, no, I meant melting right now. Oh yeah. It's hot all over, especially, yeah, the States is getting hit pretty bad as well with heat. I guess I shouldn't say as well, because most of the States is getting hit by heat waves much worse than what I'm dealing with in Calgary here, but definitely hope that things settle out and temperatures can reacclimatize, because I don't know, I'm always curious where people stand on the too hot versus too cold debate, because my partner and I are on opposite sides, where she would always rather be too cold and I would always rather be too hot. Like being even just at that like slightly sweaty all over level, I don't mind and would always rather have over being cold. But it definitely varies from person to person here. And you're a mental health mentor. Or mental health mentor. There we go. Bit of a tongue twister there in the end, but that's awesome. That's really important work, and I'm sure a lot of people appreciate you putting in your hard work as well. That's very cool. But cold please as well, Fail Think. No, definitely don't exactly relate one-to-one, but I can totally understand. I think my partner's family was split half and half, because it wasn't even that long ago that we were all chatting about this. But I think my father-in-law agrees with me on the heat side of things. Loves the tropical areas of the world. I did grow up near the equator, so that might play into a little bit. I'm kind of used to the heat in that regard for at least 5 years of my very young childhood. But what's too hot in Calgary? Yeah, no, not that hot for sure. And especially outside's not too bad. It's probably like 24 to 27 degrees Celsius right now, which is definitely warmer than we're used to, but not crazy hot for sure by any means. It's very much just our house here that does not have great ventilation capabilities, and so we do find ourselves frying even if it's not quite heat stroke temperatures or anything like that. Like I was saying earlier in the stream, jeez, somebody's walking by. Hallway, go to your room. Yeah, go in there. Good girl. Oh, what a butt. As I was saying though, oh gosh, now she's just closer and barking because she ran to our bedroom. But it's lovely outside. I was very much enjoying my time in the outdoors today. It's the perfect temperature out there. But I only speak freedom units. So what would that be? I'm not very good at my Fahrenheit conversions, but it's probably not too hot. It's in like the 60, 70 range. That makes sense to me. Maybe. Hundreds are like 40s Celsius, right? Something like that, because that's dangerous heat stroke temperatures. I guess kind of depending on humidity and sunshine and that kind of stuff too. There's so many different things here, but oh, 25 is 80 Fahrenheit. Okay, so I was way off my scales here. I guess it does get shifted depending on how far away you get from 0 degrees or 32 degrees. I mean our relative scales, of course. But there we go. That's a nice... Thanks, Failfink, for coming to the rescue in the conversion there. Because I always forget what it is, but it's something like Celsius divided by 5 plus 32. No, times 9 divided by 5 plus 32 or something ridiculous like that. Not a fun conversion, but the way that I try and do it in my head for Fahrenheit is definitely the fact that it's supposed to represent a bit of a like scale, and by which I just mean that the first digit from the low tens being 1 and 100 being the 10. It's kind of like if you asked, how hot is it today on a scale from 1 to 10? What would you say? Because if it's a 10 out of 10 hot, 100 degrees, real hot. But, you know, if it's like, oh, not at all, it's 3 out of 10, then that's freezing. That's 0 degrees Celsius, something like that. There's no reason to know F unless you grew up with it. Fair enough, but even just being neighbors with the states, I do like to do my best to at least have general approximations, especially since I do find myself in conversations with different people, and it's nice to have an idea of what it's talking, or what kind of temperatures they're talking about, especially when I'm hearing about the heat waves in the States and things like that. And I was very much actually intrigued by that entire concept of that relative scale that Fahrenheit supposedly represents. I still am probably a Celsius boy through and through, but it does make me understand a little bit more, and I do kind of appreciate that angle at the very least. Make it a little more locally understandable. Of course, if you grow up with Celsius, you just know that when somebody says it's 40 degrees, that's friggin' hot. And if somebody says it's 0 degrees, well, that's freezing. So it is just all relative to what you grew up with, much like so many different things in life. The only times it becomes an issue is when you start having to work on very specific types of projects with each other. I mean, for the most part, certain entire fields are calibrated for that kind of thing. Like plumbing is all in Imperial in North America, I believe. And then all the plumbing in Europe is its own scale as well, right? That's not even metric. I forget what it's called, but I feel like it has its own set. Because I once had to help my dad rework the plumbing out at, we have a cabin up north. And it was previously owned by a Swiss gentleman, I think. I think he was Swiss, but he could have been Swedish, and I'm embarrassed to be mixing the two up, but it's the SW sound that's gotten me mixed. But it was tough originally trying to mix and match between the two units of measurement, and then finally decided to just switch the entire thing over. But yeah, you do have to use Imperial there, because I think all plumbing is in the same units North America. Could definitely be wrong about all that too, going off of vague memories and half memories. But I used to be a blacksmith. I worked a forge in 33 Celsius weather. Temp at the forge is probably 47 to 48, hammering on white hot metal with a PS hammer and full protection gear. Not a good time. I can definitely relate to you there. A friend of mine and I in high school, he actually was really into making little homemade forges. So the best one that we got working was an old little like half-size propane tanks, the ones that are about like yay big. You shear that in half. I forget what exactly we did, but cut it up and then turned it into a little makeshift forge. And even just that tiny little thing in his garage was like ramped up the heat real quick. And the amount of work, like we had just a tiny little like 5-pound, 10-pound anvil and a little blacksmith hammer, but oh boy, that's a lot of work. I actually, let's reach over here real quick, brush some dust off. This is what I made. So we just took these like solid iron rods here, and then I carved it down, or hammered it down, I should say, not carved, into this little spike. And we just made a few of these and used them as like wacky little throwing spikes. That's so funny that I just happen to have that right on my shelf over here. It's a memento. But that's a super fun time. And actually, some family friends of my parents, again, up in northern Canada, they run a forge and a huge blacksmith workshop up there out of their house. And we got to hang out there for an afternoon once, had a beautiful dinner. But I've always wanted to get out there one day and just have like a day lesson with the main guy there, because it would be a lot of fun and would learn a whole lot. Your own first forge was a wheelbarrow full of bricks stacked up like a forge with 2 hair dryers stuck in through the back corners, blowing directly into barbecue coals. Yeah, it was barbecue coals for us as well, and the hair dryer definitely sounds familiar, but I love that. Yeah, I think one of our very first attempts were just little like plaster bricks, but we did not do a good job sealing it up, and it just never got hot enough. So we ended up just scrapping that one, and it didn't work out until the later revamp and design. But that's super cool. I love crafts like that inspire a lot of like creativity just to get working in the first place. It's similar to, I've heard a lot of stories through, my mom went to an art school, and in her ceramics class, there were quite a few people who taught themselves the very basics of ceramics. One gentleman that she was classmates with actually just had a river by his house that happened to have pretty high percentage like clay banks. And so without really knowing what he was doing, he'd start digging into the banks, make these little figures and set them out in the sun. And they'd actually slightly harden and bake properly in the sun. So he was learning or like self-teaching the very basics of annealing or the annealing process, which is super cool. Very incredible stuff. Your very first anvil was a length of railroad track. Nice. Just needed something heavy and metal that could take a beating. Super cool craftsmanship in all kinds of fields for sure.